Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I'm your host, Alex Martinez. And today, my special guest is Jenny Hernandez, my diet coach. Say hello, Jenny.
Hello. What's up?
And I've also asked my beautiful wife, Amy, to join us.
Hello, hello.
So Jenny, we've been working together for about a year almost, right?
Yep.
And I always tell people that I did everything backwards. So I started training really hard, and then I thought, well, maybe I should hydrate more. All right, cool. So I started hydrating more. And then I was feeling run down, and then I was cutting weight and doing everything wrong. And then I decided, well, maybe I should watch my diet. So I started dieting on my own and did everything wrong, apparently, after working with you.
Yep.
And then Amy was doing some CrossFit. Where was the CrossFit place?
CrossFit Perception in Mesa, Baseline, and Greenfield.
Yeah, so she was doing CrossFit. I think that's where you guys met.
Yes,
right?
It is.
Through somebody mutual?
Almost 3 years ago.
I was actually the nutritionist for that gym.
Okay.
For that box. So that's
and I
how
think
we
you did a challenge one time, and I was like, yeah, let's try that. That sounds awesome.
Yes. That is how we started.
Yeah.
What was the challenge?
A nutrition challenge.
Yep.
Okay.
So macro-based for 6 weeks, track your food. They had a couple check-ins with me. I came on site. I think back then I did like a presentation probably. I feel like I probably met you in person. I can't remember.
Yes,
exactly.
we did.
Yeah.
We did meet in person. I don't think I was able to make it to the presentation.
Okay.
But you were there, and you were the one person at the time that I didn't know, and I was like, I think you're Jenny, right? And you were like, yeah. I'm like, hi, I'm Amy.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
that
that's
was
right.
pretty much
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Put a face with a name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did they bring you in periodically to talk to the team and you know, kind of work with them?
Yeah, so basically I started with them, and at the time, there was another owner owned both gyms. There was one in Scottsdale and one there.
Oh,
and
okay.
then now Henry owns the CrossFit Perception. So basically we would do a couple times a year. I was like their designated nutritionist, and I still work with members in that gym. I just don't go on site as much anymore because I don't have time. So we were running nutrition challenges. I think they were actually 8 weeks back then. Over the years, I've like condensed that just where people will actually stay committed.
Yeah.
6 weeks is like a sweet spot. So we would go a couple times a year and do it. So then
And
that's
I did
how.
one at the, I think it was the end of 2019, because I remember it was December of 19 that I told him, I'm tired of this. I can't, whatever I'm doing is not right, and I'm tired of being 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
he
crazy.
said, okay.
Yeah, and Amy had done, I mean, you talk about putting in the work. She was doing like hot yoga. She was doing CrossFit. She was doing, you know, stuff at home, and it just wasn't working. So the missing piece was the nutrition part,
Yep.
right? So I this is how I envisioned starting this podcast. Not like we did. I envisioned starting with like, Jenny, what the hell is a macro? What the hell is a macro? Yes, that's what I want to start with. What's a macro?
Okay, well, macro is short for macronutrient, and macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats. That's
Okay.
what your body needs in large quantity. But I think the biggest misconception is macronutrients equal calories. Because people be like, oh, well, we're not tracking calories. No, you're tracking calories. You're just tracking the breakdown that gets to calories.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
just protein, carb, and fat. It's a macronutrient.
And how do people know, like, obviously it's easy for me because I can just text you.
Yes.
How much do I need?
Yes.
But
Because you're
you know,
paying me and you're a great client. Yes.
but the reality is when you got somebody, especially jiu-jitsu athletes, we tend to bite off more than we can chew all the time. We start adding weightlifting. Some crazy people start running. You know, some people get on, you know, a rowing machine, whatever. Some people do CrossFit. Some jiu-jitsu guys do CrossFit, which is insane to me. Good for them. I can't do it.
Right.
But
hard.
It's hard. Yeah, it's really hard on the body. So how can someone that doesn't have a nutrition coach match their effort to their diet? How is that possible?
I would say hire a coach.
Hire a
I mean,
coach.
honestly, like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying because I'm a coach, but we all know, I mean, because I've worked with both of you, right? Coaches, you're just hiring somebody that knows something more than you.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like, can they go online? I mean, especially nowadays, there's tons of free stuff online, but you also don't know how accurate is that. And the truth is, having a coach, as you guys know, like, I think Amy especially, like,
Oh my God.
accountability, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if anything,
Huge.
it's you're not guessing anymore.
Right.
And I've always thought that I learned stuff quickly. Working with you, I've learned, no, that is not the case. We've had a few fits and starts, and I regress to old habits, particularly after the tournament that we were preparing for is over. But each time, even though I'm still regressing, I regress less.
Yes.
You know,
Mm.
and
Yes.
it's taken 2.5 years for me to, I guess, fully get on board with all of it.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to hear that. I mean, even me, like, I like to say that I'm on a 52-week training camp. perpetually.
Right.
But there are times when I just need a break.
Yeah.
I just need a break. Like we talked about this in detail. Master Worlds is my Super Bowl. That's the only tournament I care about. And after Master Worlds, I want to shut it down. I don't mean shut it down completely. I mean, I'm not preparing for competition, right? So yes, I can put on maybe 5 or 6 more pounds, right? I don't have to get down to 174, 175. But I think it's important to stay mostly within your macro numbers. But you and I work on this because we hit a certain number of macros when I'm in competition, and then we hit a different number of macros post competition.
Right.
And how do you, like, I know every client's different, but how do you, I have so many questions in my head. How do you calculate that? Is it trial and error, or is it something that you just kind of know?
Oh, no. I mean, I think the biggest thing any coach who's experienced will tell you is it depends. And you're right. It depends on the person, right? Because everybody's different. Or like, take you guys are 2 different people. We'll use Amy just because you use yourself an example. Like, every time we go through a cut, Amy's like laser focused, like dialed in. And as soon as it comes to the reverse diet, the off season, if you will, right? Like we're going to increase calories.
The laser focus kind of fizzles.
Like it's harder for her to stay focused, right? And then the same thing with you. We were like, okay, you're like, I truly want to have an off season. I'll be prepared. The first couple of weeks was like, oh man, like I just need a break. Cool. Like as a coach, you got to meet people where they're at, right? But I definitely say I think where a lot of people go wrong is they don't even plan for that off season, if you will, right? Yeah. So the off season is going to look different for everybody, and how quickly you can increase their calories looks different too. Yeah. If somebody's having a hard time adhering to the reverse and it's not going quick enough, then I'm going to be a little more aggressive. Like I just did that with Amy. I'm like, let's just increase your calories because part of it is you want your client to be feeling successful, right? If they don't feel successful, because a lot of this is the psychology is the hard part, right?
Yes.
It's not even the food. It's the hard part. The psychology piece is the hard part.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily the food, right? I mean, it's the combination of those, but to answer your question, there isn't a one way other than just increasing calories. So post diet, post competition for you guys, right? Like you're in a deficit. We met your weight goal. Now we're going to increase calories. Some people you're going to increase 5%, 7%, 10%. Depends on their body. Depends on them, like where they're at mentally. Yeah. So it truly depends on I hate that answer. I know people hate getting the answer, but it's true. Like it's everybody is different. I don't have any 2 clients alike.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the psychological part because for me, I was lucky because I was coaching most of the time I was competing. I've been coaching since I was a blue belt. I was coaching a kids class and then, a morning class. And then now I have my own academy. So I'm still coaching. So I never had that lull where, hey, I'm done competing. So now I'm just going to take a month off. I didn't have that option. Monday morning back in training because I have a commitment. But there was a funk. There was a depression that happened post competition. And because I didn't plan for that, that it really affected me. And we saw a documentary where they were talking about Olympic level athletes. I mean, literally, contemplating suicide after the Olympics because they hit that high, even though they won gold, and it's the day after, no one gives a shit.
Yeah. Right. And now it's over.
It's over.
What do we do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so planning for that off season is huge. Yeah. So what kind of coaching do you provide any coaching? Like, do you tell people, hey, this could happen? We have to plan 100%. For off season. Yeah.
Because even to your point, like whether it's somebody preparing for a big tournament like you guys, or it's just somebody in a fat loss phase. Yeah. Even somebody in a fat loss phase, they end that cut, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, like especially if they feel great, they're like, I feel amazing. Well, guess what? Most people aren't at a sustainable intake, so we got to increase their calories. But mentally, they're kind of like, I'm over it. Like I feel good. Well, that's why most people lose weight and gain the weight back because they go back to their old eating habits. So for me, as you guys know, a big piece of my coaching is let's create habits that make this thinkless in the long run, right? Yep. Like how can you eat appropriately without having to make it like I got to track every single thing or whatever the case is. Like we're really building habits. Yeah. But again, it's meeting that person where they're at. But I always have the conversation, and we've had the conversations of like, okay, what is that going to look like? But it's still hard to prepare somebody until they're in it, right? Yeah. Like we had the conversations, but then afterwards it's kind of like, okay, like what do I do now, right? Like, and Amy, I keep using this for example because we worked together for so long, but she's the perfect example of when she has a goal that she's really focused on, she hits it hard, but as soon as that's over, it's kind of like, and that's a common. I'm using you because it's totally common. You went through the same thing, not anticipating that, right? Like 100%. I would say almost 100% with everybody. It's common. Yeah. Because people are better with extremes, but this is where we talk about a lot, right? Like, let's get away from the extremes and find where maintenance is a phase too.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that. Like, if I'm not focused on fat loss or whatever, even in a building phase, like talking about just building muscle, it's hard for people because it's slow. It's not exciting. You just got to put the work in, and it's not as exciting.
Yeah. So how do you start with a client? Say you got somebody coming in and let's just say, okay, it's not someone off the couch, okay? Because I think that's harder, in my opinion.
Well, you're just you're trying to break down a lot of habits.
A lot of habits,
right?
But let's say you have a super competitive, super athlete, guy that's been competing or girl that's been competing since they were kids.
Yeah, I'll just use you an example.
I mean, hello, not off the couch, Alex.
But and I hate to say it, but we're kind of set in our ways,
100%.
right? So where do you start with a person like that?
Well, at the same time, you're an athlete, right? I mean, we'll just use you as an example. You came to me. You didn't come to me till you're ready. You saw Amy work with me for a couple of years before you were ready, right?
Yeah.
So typically athletes aren't going to ask for that help until they're ready.
Yeah.
So you come to me, you're ready. You're actually more coachable than maybe somebody on the couch because you already have these healthy habits. For someone like you or even other athletes, it's actually more of you guys are the more extreme.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, let's pull back and try to lay out like this is what it's going to look like, which we have those conversations, right? It's more about kind of showing them like, this is what I'm going to do for you. This is how I'm going to help you.
Yep.
And we set up a plan and also meet you where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's that? That answers your question?
That absolutely does. So let's get away from the macros for a second. And what about micronutrients? What should people be doing about getting that type of intake?
Well, as far as that goes, like I'm all about simple. Everything in life, like simplify, right? And you get online and you see all the stuff out there that's like, just makes your eyes go cross because you're like, I don't even know what to listen to. So my easiest way I tell people is make sure you're getting the micronutrients is how many servings of fruits and vegetables are you having a day?
0.
Okay?
Oh, sorry. You weren't asking me. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you're supposed to be having some, so that's a conversation for later. But, right? Like I tell people, as long as you're focusing on, 1 to 2 servings of fruit, you can have more, obviously, but most people aren't doing that. 3 to 4 servings of vegetables, and try to focus on whole foods for the majority of the time. Don't be eating. You can eat processed stuff, and you can eat stuff out of packages, but if that's the majority of your diet, you're probably gonna have some deficiencies.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is try not to overthink that. Like I love simplifying things for people because there's so much confusing information out there. It's like we all know what a healthy diet is, right? But that's also harder for a lot of people to actually implement. Like for athletes, okay, training is the easy part. They love training. That's easy, right? It's how do we get the hardest part's really the diet. So it's a variety in your diet. The other thing I suggest is try to rotate the different colors in your diet because you're getting different micronutrients from colors of foods.
Yeah.
So rotate colors. It doesn't have to be every day. Maybe every week you're like, hey, I'm going to try purple and greens this week or whatever. Like that sounds so elementary, but it's
cool,
also
though.
a simple
really
way,
cool.
right?
That's really cool.
I mean, I do that in our own, like even in our house, because I'm the same, like get in the rut of, we love broccoli, we love whatever, Brussels sprouts. But I'm like, okay, we've been eating that for a month now. Like, let's break it up. You know what I'm saying? Like just simplify, add different colors in your diet. I know that sounds too simple, but it really is.
I think that's a great idea. I never thought of it that way. I just thought, I don't know, eat strawberries.
You can eat strawberries
I always
too.
have strawberries.
Strawberries are great. I mean, I love strawberries. And obviously, as I'm coaching people, we'll talk about like, what do you like? Let me get into another little topic that kind of plays in this is why I don't do meal plans. Because I give you a meal plan. We've had this conversation, right? As soon as you go out to eat or you go to a friend's house, guess what? That's on your meal plan.
Yeah.
Now you don't know what to eat to hit your macros.
What am I going to do now?
Exactly. What am I going to do now? So we talk about like even in the coaching of anyway, that's why I don't do meal plans. I'm not a huge fan of it. It doesn't teach people anything. It's still a crutch.
Yeah.
But to your point of micronutrients, it's like, okay, we'll talk about fiber. So like one thing I'll have, as you guys know, is I have fiber in our sheet that we track. You can look at somebody's fiber and know how good a quality their diet is by that. Most people, their fiber's in the teens, like less than 10. Well, they're not eating enough fruits and vegetables if they're not even eating 10 grams of fiber. So that's really an easy way also, as I have people start looking at their fiber. Well, guess what? As their fiber goes up, unless you're just getting it from like tortillas and things, which you can do that, but that's a conversation we're having too. So it's like, look at your fiber. If your fiber's less than 15 a day, you probably need to add some whole foods in your diet.
Where should that be?
It depends on somebody's calories.
Okay.
So kind of the standard is 14 to 20 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. So you can kind of determine like where your calorie intake is and how much you need. But with that said, let's say we have somebody eating a 2,000 calorie diet and they come to me eating 5 to 10 grams of fiber. Not abnormal. Like that definitely happens. I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell them, hey, go eat 30 grams of fiber because guess what?
Their guts are going to hurt. Their guts are going to hurt.
Exactly. Yes. They're going to hate me.
Yeah.
So then I slowly inch them up too. But if you're somebody who's eating a good amount of fiber, you kind of track that. Just try to aim for 14 to 20 per 1,000 calories. That's an easy math, like an easy way to kind of set your own fiber goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, going back to, the coach showing up when you're ready, I think what happened to me was we made a change in our academy. We brought in a evening coach that's just a heck of a competitor, young guy, and he's been teaching me a lot of stuff. And people that are in about to be 50, have a little success in jiu-jitsu tend to be very stubborn and set in their ways. But one thing I did with him is he proved to me that he could teach me stuff that my body can do. Like, he never tries to teach me anything that I can't do, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
So it kind of, I don't want to say it forced me, but it gave me the ability to shut off the I know switch. I just shut it off and I just listen to him. I just do what he tells me. And so far, so good. He's been changing my game for the better. So I think that helped me when I found you, well, through Amy, right? When we started talking. And I just shut off that I know switch, and I just trusted, based on the information I'm providing you, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
I didn't sit there and say, well, feed me, damn it. You know what I mean?
100%.
I've said that.
You still say that.
But I think that's really hard. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're in your 40s, if you're in your 50s, if you're in your 60s, it's not too late to get those athletic juices flowing again, but it all starts with diet and nutrition, I think, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And typically, to your point, like a lot of people, again, if they love training already, that's the easy part.
Yeah.
It is the diet that's the hard part, but you have to trust the person, right?
Yep.
Like, you trusted me, I'm sure, because of Amy. Like, you saw her progress, and you're like, okay, this girl knows what she's talking about, right?
Yeah.
But then you were also ready for me.
Yep.
3 years ago, we probably wouldn't have worked together because you weren't ready to be coached because you thought you knew.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I was stubborn. I mean, I was just like, ask Amy. I can be a little stubborn.
Yeah.
But
A tad.
but once I get my mind set on something, I give it my full commitment. So if I say I'm going to do this, it's going to be, I give it 100%. So 3 years ago, I would have been like, I don't need Jenny.
Absolutely.
I don't need anybody. This is what I'm doing. So it's kind of hard to overcome. So yeah.
But to your point,
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
3 years ago was also the kidney stone year.
Yes.
From a really super
that-
hard weight cut.
And you would think that would have been the catalyst, but it was not.
It was not. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share that story.
Okay.
I went to Atlanta and did a tournament out there. So what we were doing at the time as a academy, this is before we opened our academy, I think, right? Mm-hmm. Before we opened our academy. As an academy, my old training partners and my instructor, we would go out and support like the leaders of our association. So we have one in Atlanta. We would go do the Atlanta Open. We had one in San Jose. We do the San Jose Open. And now there's one in Nashville. I hope to go back to Nashville. That was a lot of fun. But it wasn't there at the time. So we'd kind of just go around the country and support them. So we went to Atlanta, and I had probably the hardest weight cut because I just kind of blew it off until last minute. So I was sitting in the tub all night, and I was just like, I would get in the tub, and then I would get out of the tub and wrap myself in towels so that I could get the tub hot again with Epsom salt, and then so I could get back in the tub. I was in the tub for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I was sauna suit, jump rope, morning of, sauna suit, jump rope.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Go
it
in there,
was bad.
and I
wasn't
won.
even there.
And I won. That's probably
won?
why. That's probably why I didn't pay
I would have
attention.
been nagging so hard.
Yeah. So I won. And then, I mean, what do you do after a win? You go out and celebrate. Did I hydrate? Hell no. So went out, Atlanta. Atlanta's an awesome place. We started kind of in the Marietta area, kind of worked our way around, and I don't even know how I got home. But all I know is I was on a plane the next morning, and we land in Phoenix. Thank goodness this happened in Phoenix. We land in Phoenix, and I go to the bag check, grab my bag, and I felt just a little pull in my side. And I was like, man, there's something wrong. Like maybe I have indigestion or something. By the time we got from our bags to our car, I was doubled over in pain.
Oh, wow.
I was doubled over in pain. So there's a little shack when you're leaving the parking lot, and it's like a do not enter. It's like airport property. I barged in, and I was like, I got to use your bathroom. I'm sorry, but it wasn't the bathroom. I couldn't believe how much pain I was in.
Like, you didn't know what was going on.
No. I thought something exploded and I was dying. So go to the ER, and my buddies that I'm with, I'm not driving, thank God. My buddies that I'm with are calling Amy. Amy's like, take him to this whatever ER place. And I'm like, there's one right, we're passing places. I was furious. Anyway, Super Bowl Sunday.
I was worried about the insurance.
I was dying, damn it. I was dying.
Obviously not.
You're still here, thank God.
Yeah.
So we spent half of Super Bowl Sunday in the ER, doubled over in pain. And then, I passed the stone apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
wow.
Yeah.
He's not one to panic, and he's not one that that freaks out over pain. He can handle that, and he doesn't panic. But he was freaking out over pain and panicking.
Yeah.
And
So
a little
you
bit
knew
green.
it was serious.
I was sitting there going, I was telling Amy, I was like, I can't believe how much pain I'm in. This is unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you would think, right? You would think I learned my lesson. It took me a little longer.
It took
me a
another
little
11
longer.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I started working with you, and I can say that I'm not cutting weight. If I do, it's like a pound. You know what I mean? It's not,
Right.
and it's sleep it off kind of weight. But we got it to where I'm walking into the venue, hydrated, fed. I ate this last Master Worlds. I had almost 100 ounces of water, and I had 2 meals in me before I started the competition, and I was on weight,
Amazing.
easy on weight. I think my official weight was 179, and I have to weigh in at 181. So that's just I'm telling that story because there's people out there that are cutting crazy weight, and they're not working with a diet coach or not working with a nutrition coach, and they need to start doing it. So am I the only one that's this stubborn?
No, 100%. I mean, you guys know, I'll throw Nick Flores out there. You guys know him, right?
Yeah,
so I used to
Nick,
work
yeah.
with him back in the day when I had my corporate job.
Yeah.
And he would do the same, maybe not to the extreme that you did that time, but he was the same, like always like cutting. And I'm like, for one, dehydration, as you guys know now, like
Bad.
will infect that affects your performance more than most athletes know.
Yeah.
So much.
But that's the nature of what you guys, your sport, right? Like that's what they do. So any client that comes to me, so I use Nick Flores. So yes, it's very common. Like I feel like any client I've ever had in your sport does the exact same things that you guys were doing when you started with me.
Yeah.
And
I really like not doing that.
right?
Right.
I like you not doing that.
Right.
Because as Amy knows,
so
I
much
stress for my own athletes. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you're right. Like you guys were like texting every single day, like
Yep.
leading into your tournaments. Like
Yep.
I want to make sure like we're good, we're keeping you accountable.
Yeah.
Because I told you when you started with me, I'm like, all right, both of you. I want you, let's get you the weight ahead of time so we're not doing any of this. Now we've had to do it with Amy a few times, but it's fine. She's still won and
Yeah.
whatever, it's fine.
Slow
But
learner.
Yeah.
the last tournament you went and fed too and
I
hydrated.
went fed and hydrated, and my official weight was 2.5 pounds under where it needed to be.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Solid.
Yeah.
It
That's
was awesome.
That's perfect. Yeah.
So no, you guys definitely, it's more the norm to be like you guys are than now how you guys are going into tournaments.
Yeah. And I want to talk about, because we use the word cut. You and I talk about cut.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about weight cut in the sense that there's a sauna involved, right? We talk about
Right.
cutting back macros. So let's talk about that a little bit. We incrementally went from, and I noticed that you kept my protein the same, fats the same, because my fats were pretty low, but we played with carbohydrates. Why is it that you only play with carbohydrates and not the protein or fat?
Well, so a couple of things is protein typically when anybody's dieting in your sport or not, you want to keep protein at least optimal, which we had you guys are always on optimal intake, right?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're maintaining muscle mass. That's the main reason why. Satiation, you're dieting, so we want to keep you full, which
Yeah.
protein will keep you more satiated. Fats, I really play more with carbohydrates for a couple of things. One, we keep fats the same because we bring those down. Like, yeah, you're a bit on the lower end going into the cut because one, I want carbs high enough to keep you fueled because
Yep.
carbohydrates are your first source of fuel,
Yeah.
right? So now we're keeping you fueled as much as we can, but also cutting carbohydrates will impact the cut as far as like you dropping pounds.
Yeah.
So that's where like I pretty much have your protein. Once I set somebody's protein, I rarely change that. Now we've changed it a few times with Amy actually in her cuts, but that was literally, it still has calories, so it
Yeah.
still matters.
Right.
But that's usually last resort for me. It's typically let's get fats low enough, like where you're still getting enough. Obviously, you can get good food in you, but carbohydrates typically it's because the water weight. The carbohydrates are going to impact.
Gotcha.
But I also want carbohydrates fueling you as long as we can too.
Yeah, and we talked, gosh, leading up to the tournament, we talked like not every day, but pretty damn near every day.
Yeah.
At least text.
Yes.
It's because she loves me more that she talks to me every day.
I'll give you that. And the reason we were talking was, okay, so my output wasn't changing 2 weeks out, right? It changes the week of, but I still have some hard training days. But the concern was, do I have enough fuel to finish my workouts properly? And that's kind of, I guess, the way that helped me is knowing going into the tournament, I knew exactly what I needed to eat before I went in and competed because that's what I was eating right before I trained, right? Same amount of time before, same food because we packed food. And it's, it may sound complex, but once you have it down, man, you have it down. And it's cheap.
Yep.
We're not going out to eat. We're packing our food. We're bringing our own crap. So it was cheap to do. It was really great.
I mean, you're right. It's like doing the work up front, right? But like for any athlete, it's obviously you guys, it's like I tell you guys, figure out, and we talk about it too, but I'm like, you got to figure out what makes you feel good and pay attention to the meal timing. Don't just wing this, right? Like we had the conversations, like, especially with Alex, because we've been working together a few years. So we had you like pretty much dialed in. Like Amy came to me actually high fat when she first, you were actually higher fat too, and then we kind of flip-flopped that a little bit for both of you guys because your sport, right?
Right. But I've been pretty stubborn. I'm like, don't take my fats away.
Yeah, she does like her fats. We found a happy balance.
Yeah, definitely.
But like for you, we were actually doing a little bit of calorie cycling based on the way you train. You train light, medium, hard, right?
Yep.
So we cycled you in that aspect too to make sure you're fueled. But I remember telling you like, okay, let's drill down, like make sure that you know what you're eating. So then that week of, it's thinkless, right? Like to your point, it sounds complicated, but once you got it down, you just know what to do.
Simple.
Yeah. And we played with, remember with you, we played a little bit with adding some Gatorade in because we're like, you need some intra-carbs. And you're like, you know what, Gatorade makes me feel good? Cool. But we experimented with it, remember?
Yeah,
like,
that little 80 calorie bottle right before training, man, that was a ticket.
Solid.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't too much, like just enough. But again, we did that, 2-3 weeks out to make sure, like, do you feel good with that? Yeah,
and that was something that I did when I was training triathlon. There were certain things like, you know, obviously I don't think I didn't have a nutrition coach. I had a tri coach, and he was like, just eat. You know what I mean? But he and I got pretty scientific about it after a little while. I mean, I would carry a bottle, and this was my, that bottle would carry me almost 3/4 of the way because it had like 1,400 calories of stuff in it, and it was sludge, right? But that was my calorie intake for most of the race. But it was one of those things where, okay, so when I feel like crap, I need a Red Bull and not a Coke because I can't ride my bike with a Coke. I can't run with a Coke, but I can do a Red Bull. So those are the little tweaks that I found like really helpful, and so that kind of led me to what we were talking about at the end of my training session. Gosh, that last round, I just feel kind of run down. What if we did this, and then when we tried it, was ticket.
Right?
Yeah, that was money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
But that's what I love about the tweaks. Like even with the weight cut, talking about that, like Amy and I talked right before Vegas too. You had mentioned something about, well, if we don't have for dinner, maybe I'll get Chipotle. And I was like, so hold up, Chipotle, right? The higher sodium, most people's weight. So it's even knowing this of like over the time of like learning, like what do I respond to? How am I, and also what's going to impact my weight, especially in your sport, right? So Amy was like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So it's even just working as a team. Like the way I see any client, regardless, the goal is we're a team. Like I'm going to coach you and I'm going to educate you, but we're in this together because we got to find what works for you. I mean, you guys aren't doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you're not eating the same types of foods because...
No, I'm so jealous. He gets to eat so much more than I do.
I kind of feel bad for you sometimes after you watch him. But.
Well, and she's at a job where she's got to eat on the go all the time.
Right.
I mean, I get to sit down. I get to sit down and eat. I can make time. You know, if it may not be the exact same time every day, but I can make time to sit. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You got to plan a little bit better than I do.
Yeah, I do, but I've worked it out. Like, I know when my slower times at work are, so, like, I'm pretty regimented in what I eat every day until dinner time, and that's been my
well, we're having dinner at 9 o'clock at night, so that doesn't help.
Yeah,
you know,
but, like, I know I have my oatmeal with peanut butter and berries every morning, and then usually around between 10:30 and noon, I can have lunch. And I eat the exact same thing every freaking day.
Yeah.
But you enjoy it, right?
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for months and months. But I know I feel good when I have this specific meal. It carries me through until about 4 o'clock, when is another sort of slowish time at work, so I can chug a protein shake and get through the rest of my shift.
Yeah.
And then dinner, I sabotage myself.
Yeah.
We'll keep working on that.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
But everything you're saying is the habits, right? Like you've created, it took us a couple years, but this is my goal with any client is let's create a routine and habit that makes it thinkless.
Yeah.
I mean, truly. Like, it's thinkless
I
for you now,
I don't
right?
have to think about it. I know exactly what I need to eat and approximately when I need to eat it. And then I don't have to feel like I'm going to murder somebody. Yeah. Which is cool.
Well, and this is, I don't know how to segue, so I'm just going to do it. But this is the reason I asked you to be on today. So you work with Jenny for 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. But I've noticed a significant change in the last year versus the previous 2. What was it that got you? I mean, we're talking in the past, we'll call it 16, 18 months. You've dropped 30 pounds, 10% body fat, or 11% body fat now.
Well, when I started with Jenny, I was at 31%, according to our scale at the academy. Yeah. 31% body fat. And I think it only took a year. And I lost, only a year. A year's a long time. But
but it's not.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's really,
I have to say
goes really
it's
fast.
not at the same time.
Yeah. And I think in the first year I got down to the 150-ish range. So that's about 40 pounds over the course of the year. So
wow.
I exaggerate slightly because I was 190 pounds-ish when I started working with Jenny.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just freaking tired of it.
Yeah.
And the my jiu-jitsu wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. It's still not, but it's way better than it used to be, which came with mat time and as you always say. But then once I got the weight down, it was about keeping it down. And then I didn't have to focus so much on getting the weight down. And as Jenny and I have talked a number of times, getting my head right.
Yeah.
And in the past year, I've had a tremendous growth just in the way I think about everything. And I'm a lot more confident. I feel great. I respect myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that all starts with keeping the promises you make to yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's I mean,
that's it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
That's huge. When clients get to that point, and you don't know how long it's going to take anybody, to your point, right? Like maybe you never thought you'd be where you're at now, but what's cool as a coach is watching. I mean, when somebody has the ability and they're going to get there, but you don't know if they're actually going to get there, right? But it's been cool. Like I always post, like physical transformation's cool, like definitely cool, like love seeing it. Yeah. But it is the growth and like what you're saying, like you're confident now, and like you said, you want to quit letting yourself down.
Yeah.
And keeping those promises you made to yourself, and that's when it just clicks. That's when people are like, okay, like I got this now, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. As a coach, like being part of that is, I can't explain it. Like it truly is like, it's amazing. Like that's why I love what I do, because it's amazing watching people change and just grow. Like I love the growth aspect of it.
Yeah. And someone posted something the other day. It said, something along the lines, maybe it was Lance. He says, respect yourself enough to have a plan. And man, that's like, that's like a punch in the face, right? And a lot of people don't. And, we talk about everybody's got inner demons. And I talked to Aaron Simpson on the podcast not too long ago. And, Aaron is like, he came in fourth at nationals at ASU. He was a, captain of his team. You name it, he did it. Pac-10, all Pac-10, everything. And we talked about, you're the head trash, the inner demons. When you stop keeping the promises you made to yourself, that's when the demons get stronger, because they never go away, right? They never go away. They're in the corner doing push-ups, doing pull-ups, getting stronger, so that when you slip, boom, they're in your head. This is who you are. You remember? Yeah, we remember you, right? And when you fight them off, through diet, through hydration, especially through exercise, stuff like that, they don't get weaker, but you get stronger. It's like another muscle that you're working out there. So I love that. I love that aspect of it.
I love it. That's a great analogy, a great point. And I see it all the time with people. I mean, it does get easier, right? For you now, like, sure, it's a self-talk.
Yeah.
Right? Like, a lot of that self-talk is what will destroy people's goals more than anything. And I talk a lot about with clients. I mean, the nutrition component is is a little bit, right?
Sure,
it's all the other things that we got to work through with people. But it's usually the self-talk. And I would say men have it too, but I would say females are the worst. And it's like turning that narrative around that you tell yourself, like what you're saying, right? Like, I think one thing that I want to say about your transformation in the last year was you reading the book, Cyberkinetics. Like that made a big difference for you.
It did.
And it's all about visualization, really, right? I mean, you can speak more to that, but I think that's where I really saw you like, okay.
Yeah. And I put it down. I actually haven't finished it. The self-help kind of books are very difficult for me to read, but you really encouraged me to read that one, and my head kind of exploded with each chapter, and I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, I can do this, but I can't point to one thing in the book that was like, oh yeah, that was it, but the whole thing was just kind of smacked me upside the head. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do this.
You told me the one thing that really got you was believing in yourself. You were reading that and you're like, I got to believe in myself. And if I believe I can do it, I can do it. You told me that in one of our calls.
Yeah.
And that was like a switch for you. Like, I feel like that when you started believing more in yourself by reading that book and really visualizing where do I want to get, that's when I even saw it, like, in the last year. Like, we worked together for 3 years, but in the last year, I really saw you going, okay, like, yeah, I can do this, right? Like,
yeah. Well, and On top of that, though, so yes, and all the nutrition stuff has really been coming together in the past year. Like I'd gotten it, but this past year I feel like because I get it, I can stick to it better than I could before.
Yeah.
I can focus on the hydration. So my food's right, my water's right. Sleep is still garbage, but we're working on that.
We're working on that.
My training has been consistent and good, and I've seen. So all of those, I'm having all of these successes, and then I'm reading this book says, just believe in yourself, dude. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do that.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it gets even better from there.
Yeah, and I can talk about self-sabotage from a coach's standpoint. So there are certain athletes that I train that they are all in. They're all in on themselves, and I love it. Watching them, I get so inspired. They have no excuses, and they don't always win, but there are people out there that have all the ability in the world that just won't put forth the 100% effort because they need an excuse. And that's head trash. That is 100% head trash. Like, I just tell people, compete at the highest level you can possibly compete, and you won't regret it. But there's professional athletes out there that self-sabotage. They train really hard, and then they'll disappear from camp and go out drinking, go out partying, do drugs, do whatever, because they want that excuse. In case they lose, they can always say, yeah, I went partying last week,
True.
So that's one thing. Like, believing in yourself doesn't mean you have to win everything. It doesn't mean you have to be 100%. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. But if you give 100% effort every single day, man, you will not regret it. You will not regret that.
Yeah. And keep showing up, right? Like,
showing up.
So you asking to aim, like, okay, it takes 3 years, and you're like, oh, it took a year to lose 40 pounds. Okay, well, at the end of the day, that's really not that long. And the bigger thing is you've kept it off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, that's the bigger thing. And then, like you say, you got to show up. Like, you're not always going to win. You're not always going to be perfect. And I think that's where people they need to get out of their own way, is don't expect perfection, because that's not real. That's not reality.
It's not reality. Yeah.
Well, and you guys have competed in stuff too. Like, winning is awesome. Winning is awesome.
For sure.
But those losses, you're like, what did I screw up? Why did I lose? Like, my skill was there. Like, Worlds this past year, like, I made major mental mistakes. And so that's what I get to work on now, right? And so I can come back stronger next year. Just
you'll grow from it.
Yeah, the growth from losses is almost exponential.
Yeah. What I love the most about jiu-jitsu is it doesn't care about you. It doesn't care.
True.
Jiu-jitsu doesn't reward you for anything. It doesn't care how much you want it. It doesn't care how many hours you put in. It will still let you lose. However, when you look back at the preparation, you're gonna be so proud of yourself. I mean, regardless of what the outcome, right? Obviously, winning is way better than losing.
Yeah, way better.
But
of course.
I'm in love with the process. I really am. I love the grind. I love being sore and washing gis and getting bloody.
Washing gis.
I dig
that.
it. Yeah, I dig
Every
it.
day.
Man. Every day.
Every day.
Every day. If I don't have a gi coming out of the washer, I feel like a loser. I
But
really
that's
do.
true, though, right? The process is truly, if you can actually embrace that part, that's where the fun is. Like, obviously, winning, yes, that's the ultimate goal. But at the end of the day, if you don't enjoy the process, it's just going to suck. Like,
And the process is actually really, really awesome.
It is really fun. Yeah,
and
it's
it's
really
what
fun.
you make of it.
Yeah.
And then you can see, you're like, I did all this work, and look at where I am.
Yeah.
Like, I put in the work. Yay me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny part, there are people out there that think I'm missing out on stuff. Bro, I'm not missing anything.
No, 100%, right? It's a matter of perspective, right?
I'm not missing anything, trust me. But I want to talk a little bit about your background.
Okay.
Okay, so tell me where you're from. Where'd you grow up?
Colorado. Southeastern Colorado. So
Okay.
a super small town, middle of nowhere.
All
That's why
right.
I live here now.
Where it snows in January or in July or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, May. The year before I moved, it snowed like Memorial Day. No joke. Like, it normally does
way.
not do that,
Yeah.
but it snowed, and I was like, got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Hate the cold.
That's part of the reason I moved out here from the East Coast.
Same.
Yeah, there's a whole season of hurricanes.
Yeah.
That's just stupid.
Oh,
Don't
that's
live
dumb.
there.
No.
Don't.
Why?
Everybody move away.
Weather in general is stupid.
Yeah.
I like that we
uh,
have none.
Yes.
So, tell me about your background in nutrition and where'd you learn all this stuff?
Okay, so I grew up in Colorado. I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science and health promotion. Really didn't get into the whole health and fitness. I wasn't an athlete growing up. I didn't get into it till my freshman year of college. Funny kind of story about that because people are like, how did you get into it? And this is kind of embarrassing, but also funny to say is the reason why I got into health and fitness was when I went to college, like people were always coming back, like gaining the freshman 40. We called it freshman 40. I guess they call it freshman 10 now, but it was freshman 40 back then. And I was like,
times have changed.
Right? I know, totally, right? I was like, I am not going to gain the freshman 40 when I go to college. And for whatever reason, I got into the exercise science stuff. And that was really what drove me to it because I was like, hell no, I'm not gaining that weight, right?
Yeah.
I've never been overweight or anything, but I've never been in as good a shape as I am now. Which, to your point about age, like age really doesn't matter. Like if you're willing to put in the work, you can accomplish anything, right?
Yeah.
The older you get. So anyway, got my bachelor's degree, exercise science, health promotion. Moved here in my late 20s, and I had I was a certified personal trainer. And I really got a job at Mountainside Fitness just to get me here, so I could figure out like what I want to do and actually use my degree once I moved here. So I personal trained. I knew it was going to be temporary. I love training myself, but I did not love training people. Like, I don't like touching sweaty people. I don't like, I am sorry, like, judge me, whatever. I just don't like that part of it. But really what got to me on the nutrition side of things was training people in the gym. Like a lot of these, it would be Scottsdale, like a lot of women coming, like, not making changes because they weren't changing their diet. And I just knew, I mean, I already knew it going into it, but as you're seeing people frustrated because they weren't getting results, it's because they weren't changing their diet. They're having a personal trainer, right, which is cool. But if they don't change their diet, nothing's happening. They're not going to get the results they hope for. And so that's when I was like, you know what? Like, this is not for me for all the reasons. But anyway, long story short, I got into corporate wellness. I actually started working for a corporate wellness company. It's a startup company. Didn't have any experience in it. Other than my degree was a little bit that. The health promotion part of my degree was that. But I hadn't actually worked in it yet. So anyway, I started working for a corporate wellness company with a startup company. They were kind of ahead of the game at that point. This was 2007, 2008. So they were actually using Skype for like video coaching calls. Well, that was ahead of the time. Like that wasn't really a big deal back then.
Yeah.
So I basically sold them on like, because I'm the opinion, as you guys know, like if you want to achieve something, you can do it. You just got to work hard, right? So somehow I sold them on hiring me. Like, yep, I got this. I can help you build your company, whatever. I did it. I helped them. Fast forward, I ended up working for, they actually got bought out by an insurance broker because they just weren't big enough. And so I started working for them. And I started working with the health benefit guys where we would go out, like we'd come to your company and sell you health insurance, but they would bring me along to say, hey, if we can actually implement a wellness program or get your employees healthy, we'll save your company money. Like health insurance is one of the most expensive expenses of a company, right? People don't realize that. So that's how the corporate, just like make a long story short, that's how corporate wellness, I did that for over 10 years. Loved it, made a lot of great contacts, still did health coaching. Like I was doing health coaching on top of that. Fast forward 10 years later, now people are online coaching. This is a thing. And I was like, man, like they were really pushing me to do insurance. And I actually got my health insurance license. Never did a thing with it because in my heart, I knew like, I don't care how much money you can make doing it. It was not for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? There's all these other coaches out there like coaching that don't have the experience or background I do. So why can't I do it? It's like one of those things. Well, if they can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
So at the time I wasn't married, I was single on my own, but I was like, you know, I'm going to work my butt off, build up my business while I still have my corporate job because the best time to find is a job when you have a job, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I literally spent a year working before I would go into my corporate job, at my lunch break, at night, till 10 o'clock at night, weekends. I did that for a year. Let me back up. I had a mentor, Tony Manders, a good friend of mine. One thing he told me was, I went and talked to him like, hey, I want to get on my corporate job. He goes, you got to set a date. If you don't set a date, you're just going to keep going. Like you're never going to quit.
Yep.
I was like, okay, cool. So I set the date, did it for a year, built up my business where I had the date set, but I was at the point where it was like, I'm holding myself back on my business by keeping my corporate job. Gave my 2 weeks notice before my date that I'd set a year prior.
Nice. Wow,
Stuck
good for
with
you.
it, right? And
that's awesome.
Quit my job. It worked out great. The company I worked with actually hired me then to actually be there, like basically be a vendor for them and still do wellness. So it was like a win-win for me.
Yeah.
Took one of my corporate accounts with me. Like they were fine with an account in Texas. They actually worked with me up until last year when they had an acquisition. A big company took them over. So I still do corporate wellness.
Yeah.
But anyway, basically that kind of led into it. So Jenny Fit was... I built it, started 2017, actually full-time 2018, and honestly haven't looked back. Like, it's amazing. I love it. And yeah that's kind of where we're at now.
Wow. So what's your client base local versus out of state? Is it like a 50-50 kind of thing, or is it pretty heavy locally?
I would say it's pretty heavy locally. It's probably more like 60-40 locally, because obviously my business is right now purely based on referrals. Like I haven't done marketing, I haven't done any of that. That's going to change soon because I'm doing some other things just to keep, like, I want to impact people as much as I can. I'm kind of limited right now, but I'm growing in that. I was telling you, I'm hiring a business coach so I can grow, but I have clients all over the United States. I actually have a client in Romania.
Wow.
I've had one client in England. So I have like got out of the United States a little bit, which is kind of cool. Like,
that is cool.
Kind of fun. But mostly, I mean, a lot of it's Arizona because, again, a lot of my clients are here.
Yeah.
But really all over from California to, I mean, the East Coast, even Boston. So yeah, so it's cool. I mean, I love it. But I've also had clients that have worked with me since the beginning also, which is kind of fun. I mean, clients become friends. Like, obviously you guys know, like, we hang out, right? Like, it's cool. So it's a relationship business. Yeah,
definitely. And speaking of which, you do an event every year for your clients at the where do we go?
Valley Hill.
Valley Hill. The Hotel Valley Hill. That was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you guys came.
That was a lot of
fun. Right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had never done like a pool party before.
Oh, really?
I'd never done.
I didn't know
here,
that.
You know, I done it at the house, but I'd never done a pool party before, so that was like new to me.
Yeah.
And the staff there was awesome, and the people there were great. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of. How did that come about? How did you think about that? Because that was a great idea.
Well, I'm glad you guys came. First of all,
yes.
Such a fun time, right?
Yeah.
So that was actually part of my vision. Like when I started my business, was I want to create a community of people, of like-minded people. Like obviously people trying to be healthy and fit. And I really want to create a community. So I'm still building that community. I have a private Facebook group and things like that. But the event, I started off doing like a barbecue the first of the year because the pool party isn't everybody's scene, right?
Yeah,
like, we know that.
Yeah.
Which I respect that. Totally get it. It's not everybody's scene. So I used to do like a barbecue just at a park for like families to come the beginning of the year. And then we do the pool party. I've done the pool party every year since I started my business.
Yeah.
The barbecue just kind of fell off because of like, I want to say it, but pandemic and all that, right?
Yeah.
So that just kind of put a damper on things, and I just haven't got back to that. But the pool party was my vision from the get-go, and I love pool parties. People know me, like, I love it. Like, it's a good way to show off your hard work, like, have fun with people. And my whole vision for that day was like, hey, everybody works hard, like, year-round tracking, and I'm always like, gotta track, or, you know, we have the balance or whatnot. But that day is come have fun. Enjoy yourself. No macro counting. We're gonna drink some alcohol. We're gonna eat some crappy food and show the balance. And for me, it's awesome because I actually get to meet some of my clients that I've actually never met in person.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I met them. Like some people, I'm like, wait, we haven't met yet because I feel like, you know what I mean. Like we talk weekly.
We go through that so often in jiu-jitsu and the community, the jiu-jitsu community. Like everybody's friends on Facebook. We've never met. You know what I mean? Like Instagram stuff like that, like and share and all this other stuff. And then you meet them at a tournament. You're like, hey, you don't know this person. It's the first time, but it feels like you met them, you know, known them a long
100%.
time.
So I love doing that for the clients that want to come, and it's been a success. Like every year, it started the first year, I think it was like 30, 40 people. We've gotten up to 70 people at that thing. And we didn't do the 2020 year, but I've done every year except for that. This year we had 50 to 60 people. And it's always like a kind of a different vibe every year because new people will come. I have the originals. They've come every year and they keep coming. And it's friends and clients. It's not just like, I'm like, hey, more the merrier. So it's just a good time. I'm so glad you came.
Yeah.
You'll be there next year, right?
Yeah, we'll definitely be there next year.
Yeah.
We met a guy, I think his name is Mike. And I'm trying to get in touch with him. Everything was wet, so I couldn't get his information.
Right.
But
I'm sure I can get you in touch with him.
Yes. He lives part-time in Alaska and part-time in Hawaii.
Yep.
And I got to get him on the podcast. His story, he does jiu-jitsu also. I think he's a white belt,
I know
just
who you're
started.
talking about. Yes.
Yeah, so I'd love to
I'll
get him
connect
on.
you guys.
Awesome. That would be so cool. Yeah. But
that's cool, right? Sorry, but like that's what it's about. Is
like
it's not about coming for me, honestly. Like I want to see everybody, but I want people to get together and meet. And every year everybody comes back, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember you from last year." So it's building that community and friendships. Like to me, that's cool. Like that's invaluable.
Oh, absolutely, it's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I want to talk about another subject that's really again, I don't know how to segue. I'm just doing it. Another subject that's really, really near and dear to my heart. I'm originally my first coaching job in jiu-jitsu was as a kids coach, and I call it a job. I did it for free, but it was a job, and I just poured my heart into it. And one thing, maybe I was too young as a coach, or maybe I didn't have enough confidence in myself. But there's certain things that I noticed that parents are doing with their kids in athletics, that especially combat sports, that I hate to say it bothers me, but it does. It does bother me. I think, especially little girls, the relationship with food is being affected because we're constantly worried about our weight. Can you talk about that good relationship with food for kids and how you address that with parents or coaches?
For sure. I mean, I would say one, I love that you're even aware of it, right? Because I'll say as working with tons of adult women, a lot of them have a terrible relationship with food and it came from their mothers, unfortunately, or their parents, right? Like I'm not just going to blame the mothers, but and it's no fault to the parents because I don't think they realize that.
No, I mean, they're trying to do the right thing by the kid, right?
Yes,
So, yeah.
So to be in a sport with you guys where it is focused on a weight goal, if you will, I've worked with teenagers and kids aren't necessarily my target market, but I've definitely worked with some over the years. And it's a little bit different in that sense. I mean, it's hard to find really coaches that work with kids, I feel like, on that level.
Yeah.
But the psychology piece of it, 100% is such a sensitive subject, I guess, if you will. So I would say, in your sport, and again, like you maybe can even touch on this a little bit. My thought would be, we had a little conversation about this before, right?
Yeah.
But my thought is more like let them compete at whatever, especially kids, let them compete at whatever weight they're at. So they're not so focused on the scale at that young of an age because, oh man, like I can't imagine the psychology behind that and what you're setting them up for down the road if you're already having them diet about a certain weight number, right, at that age. So,
well, forget about diet. We're talking about weight cut.
Like weight cutting?
Yes.
Little kids?
Yes.
Like what age are you talking?
I'm talking like 10, 9. Yeah.
That's tough.
Not a
That's
good idea.
tough.
No,
Not a
it's
great
not
idea.
a good idea. I would not be supportive of that.
Right. I'm not.
No.
I hate it. But I'm not going to tell anybody how to raise their kid. But I do want them to realize, not realize, obviously I'm not trying to lecture anybody, but I want them to think of it in such a way that we are not here to talk about wins and losses. We're talking about building good citizens, good people. And if you're building good people, that means they're healthy people, mentally and physically, right? And telling somebody, and I hear this all the time at tournaments, all the time. Like they're not my students, right? They're somebody else's students, but the kids are like, "Can I eat? Can I eat?" And the kids and the parents are like, "No, you got to wait and you got to weigh in. You got to watch your weight. You got to watch your weight." And okay, I always say like little boys, we rebel. Like, I'm gonna eat, bro. I'm sorry. I'm gonna find something. I'm gonna find gum under the thing. I'm gonna eat something, But little girls, they tend to be a little bit more attentive to what their parents say.
Yeah. Rule followers.
Yeah, rule followers, right? And boys will be like, "I'll just buy a candy bar." You know what I mean?
Right.
But I guess the fear, I think, in my opinion, that parents have is that their daughter may lose in the tournament because they're the smallest person in the division. Let them lose.
Yeah.
I think you'll be surprised at the outcome. Right.
Well, exactly. And I think to your point, it's like building the confidence. At the same time, like this sport is going to build the confidence. But if you constantly have them worrying about a weight at that age, and I'm saying this because I've worked with so many women who have just a terrible relationship with food. Again, not even because of this, but because of whatever, their parents' relationship with food. So you starting off with that, not you, but like somebody starting off already worrying about food. I mean, Amy, like we talk about, right? Like food, the relationship with people's food is the hardest part.
It's
is. Not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and societally in general, look at the magazines. Look at what we see, the models in the magazines. If you're over 110 pounds, you're not going to be on a cover of a magazine, right?
Right.
But I'm 47 years old and literally in the best shape of my entire life right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel awesome. I look awesome.
Yeah, you do.
My jiu-jitsu's good. I'm strong. All of this stuff. And it started with working with you and getting my head right around food.
Yeah.
And I don't win all the time.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because that makes you better.
Yeah.
We talked about it.
Right.
Right.
Losses are tremendous opportunities for growth. But then I know I can still eat, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I compete locally, I go up a weight class. I am the little one in there because my competitors here fight at middle heavy and I fight at middle. I'm not going to gain weight.
Right.
Right.
Because it's going to be sloppy weight.
Yeah.
Right.
You
It's
go
not
in
going to be
optimal.
strength.
Yeah.
So go in optimal, hydrate, make sure I'm fed and hydrated, and then I go in and it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe with kids, it's more a matter of even at your schools of taking it a different approach. It's like, hey, this is about confidence, teaching them not that you want them to lose, right? But if you do lose, what growth's going to come of that?
Yeah.
And being prepared of let's set them up for success for long term and not have them worrying so much about the weight per se.
Yeah.
But they're just getting stronger in the sport, right? Per se. And then teach them nutrition. Like anytime I've worked with kids, I've never had kids track their macros, first of all. Like I've even had 17-year-olds when parents are like, hey, will you work with my daughter? And I'm like, Yes, but I always have a conversation with the parents first, and I never make it about, I help them understand nutrition, but I don't have them track their food because at that point, really like just teach them to learn to listen to their body. And I would say like for your athletes that are kids, teach them how food makes them feel. It's not about like that number on the scale, right?
Yeah.
So just having a different approach, the byproduct could still be there at a healthy weight.
Yeah.
But now they aren't focused on that.
Yeah. So I guess my question would be, what would you say? Because kids don't have a lot of they really don't dictate where they eat, what they eat, right? Parents usually do that. Guardians usually do that. What can you say to a parent or guardian that has a kid that's a competitor and wants to keep their weight at a certain place? How can they do that in a healthy way?
Well, I mean, if the kid's already let's say the kid's at a healthy weight. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
And if they're at a healthy weight, then to your point, this is one reason why it's hard to work with kids because it comes down to the parents.
Yeah.
So do the parents understand nutrition? Like
Right.
that's the starting point,
Yeah,
right? Do
yeah.
you understand?
What's their relationship with food?
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Do you
I didn't
understand
think
what
about
calories
that.
are? Do you because if not, how are you going to help your kid and how are you going to set your kid up for success? So
Yeah.
if anything, not making this about the parents, but it is like if they don't know, how can they help their kid?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've had tons of clients who are athletes, especially back when CrossFit Games I felt like it was a much bigger deal years ago. I had tons of CrossFit athletes. And I have one client specifically where he specifically said like him learning about nutrition for himself, his kids were younger, now they're elementary age. He's like, now I recognize when my kids come home and they're tired and they're cranky or whatever, hey, maybe you guys need some fruit or whatever.
Whoa,
like now
yeah.
he recognizes like
Yeah.
he's made that connection through his own journey of how to help his kids
Yeah.
be healthier, and he recognizes when their energy's low, like maybe they haven't eaten well or maybe they haven't eaten enough. Like
Yeah.
he truly took what he learned and applied it to them. So
Yeah.
that probably wasn't the answer you were looking for,
No,
but if
that's
the parents
good.
don't know if you don't know what you don't know, right?
No, that's a great answer. I ask this question of anybody that has a background in nutrition. I don't. I listen to you, but
You're
like Tiffany was on the podcast and she was saying like, what if because a lot of the issues are when a kid is right at the top end of their bracket of their division weight wise, and they're going to go into one where they're going to be giving up 6 or 7 pounds, which is in jiu-jitsu is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So what they want to do is they want to watch what they're eating and kind of, maybe cut back, what they're eating, and then so they can make the weight at this division versus the higher division. So, but I mean, my question is, are they eating pizza? You know what I mean? Are they eating at home? Are you taking them out for burgers because it's convenient? Or if you're truly trying to get your kid to win their division at that certain weight level, well, then maybe invest a little time in learning about nutrition, right? And cooking at home and making sure they're eating healthy.
Yes.
And don't even talk about it.
Exactly.
Don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
That's,
don't make it such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like, or make it more about them feeling good. Or to
Yep.
your point, if the parents they're the ones in charge, essentially.
Yeah.
So make it not so obvious especially how you're using the example of like, oh, you can't eat yet. It's like, if anything, that's a tough one because that's going to stick with those kids more than people realize.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. Like just make it more of like, okay, you're paying attention if they're eating out all the time, which is a thing, right? Like most people nowadays eat out. Yeah, it's convenient.
Yeah.
But we
busy.
also know, because we've talked about it, there's tons of convenient ways at home. You just got to learn those convenient ways to eat, right?
Yeah.
Like that's actually going to save you time from waiting in a drive-through line to get fast food.
I will be completely transparent right now and say that there are times when I'm like, I'm not going to eat now because I'm going to have a giant meal right before bed. I look at my macros. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to ruin that. I'm not. That's not probably the best approach. But
Well, we got that.
Well, it's your choice.
yeah,
We got that microwave rice cooker.
Yeah.
On Amazon. It was like $10. I can have rice ready to go in 10 minutes.
It's fantastic.
I don't have to think about it. I don't have to pay attention to it. I stick it in the microwave, 10 minutes, go, boom. And then we can grill something.
We usually
or
make a
some
pile of
chicken
grilled
and then
chicken breast or whatever.
boom, we're ready.
Mhm.
And it,
But I can beat that. If somebody just doesn't want to cook, doesn't have the time, whatever the excuse is, 90-second packet of rice. There's 90-second,
Ooh.
Uncle Ben's. It's like a 90-second packet of rice, right?
Yeah.
Throw that in the microwave. I always tell people, eat a vegetable. It doesn't matter. Canned maybe isn't optimal, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Open a can of green beans and open a can of chicken or tuna. Guess what? You got a meal. You literally took you 2 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it's not like going to be the most delicious, but I'm saying to me personally, I would rather do that than go wait in a fast food line.
Yeah, for sure.
One, I know what I'm putting in my body. I'd
Yeah.
rather have the can of green beans. Again, I'd rather have fresh, but that's better than eating fast food crap that you don't even know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So where there's a will, there's a way is my point. Your 10-minute rice cooker, especially nowadays, they got the Instant Pot. They got so many ways. Like,
awesome.
Plan a little bit, and you're going to save a ton of time as opposed to eating out. But I get it. It's a convenience thing. But anyway.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, what is what are you going to be working on with your new business coach? What's in the future for you?
So what I really want to do is learn how I'm building courses because I'm trying to scale my business a little bit more, but I am one person. I've had coaches under me in the past, and that just wasn't my thing, didn't really work out.
Yep.
So I'm really wanting to learn how I can scale my business and make a bigger impact on people with what I have. I know I'm going to have to get a bigger team. I have a marketing girl. She does marketing and admin. I have a bookkeeper, but that's the extent of my business. I do have one coach working under me right now, but my goal isn't to have a bunch of coaches under me. It's just not my passion. So I'm hiring a business coach to help me. How can I make a bigger impact on people, but also not work myself to death either? Because I truly believe in balance and I want to enjoy life at the same time. I don't have to make more money. I want to make a bigger impact on people. So for me, the coach I hired, she makes a huge impact on people. And I'm like, okay, instead of trying to figure this out myself, it's just like anything. We all believe in coaches. I have my own coach, even for my own nutrition and fitness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, coaches are invaluable.
Yeah.
So I'm hiring somebody who's already done it and knows what to do. So
Perfect.
so that's the goal. I just want to make a bigger impact and not make it more difficult on myself to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah. So in the meantime, how can people find you? Where can they find you?
Instagram. I'm really active on Instagram more than anything. So Jenny Fit Wellness. I do have a website. You can contact me there. JennyFitWellness.com. Can you link some of these in your notes?
Absolutely,
okay, so you link me. JennyFitWellness.com. You can reach out to me through my website. There's I'll do a free consult with anybody if you're interested, if you're an athlete, whatever your goal is. I work with Gen Pop as well as athletes. I like to have a little bit of variety. And I always do a free consult. So if you just want to talk to me, hey, here's my goals, what can you do for me? I'm happy to do that too.
Awesome.
If somebody refers you to me, you can text me if you have my phone number. I'm totally fine with that. I mean, just text me because I'm on calls most of the time. So text is preferably initially.
Yeah.
And
She will always respond.
Always.
Just maybe not in the next 3 minutes.
yes.
And that's okay.
Thank you. Yes, that's a good point.
She will always respond.
I will always respond.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have changed me, I mean, almost completely in the past year, just with nutrition. I didn't realize the impact it would have. I'm better on the mats. I'm a better coach. My competition focus has been the highest it's ever been. I always say for my age.
That doesn't matter.
But that doesn't matter. But I couldn't recommend you more, whether you're an athlete or not. I mean, call Jenny. She's the best. She's the best. And if
I second that.
Yeah. So I mean,
You guys are the best.
I always use Amy as the example because she actually, when I watched her transformation, I was like, yeah, I've got to jump on board. So it was a no-brainer. So
I love it.
Yeah. So
it was really hard that first year when I was working with Jenny exclusively and you hadn't signed up yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta measure this shit. And you're over there eating whatever. Like, oh, that looks really good.
Yeah.
Nope. Focus. I'm having this, and that's all I need.
But how miserable was I sitting in the sauna? How miserable. Super miserable. I hated everything. Forget about life. I hated everything. It was just miserable.
But you know what I love? Like, last thing I want to say too is our age, right? We're all in our 40s.
Mm-hmm.
You're turning 50.
50, yeah, next month.
Next month. I mean, what's cool about it, I mean, I work with all ages, obviously, but we've talked a lot today. Age really doesn't matter. Like, so often people use age as an excuse, and it doesn't need to be an excuse.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is your commitment level. When you came to me, you said, this has only happened a handful of times in the years I've been doing this. You said, I want to pay for a full year. I'm all in.
Yeah.
I freaking love that about you. You were like, I've never even worked with you yet. I mean, we did a consult initially, and because of Amy, but still, like, the fact that you were just like, I'm all in, I was like, this dude's going to crush it. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I knew he had Amy for support too, which, I mean, your support system's huge no matter what.
It's been way better for me knowing that he's got, X amount. I mean, he's got twice the macros that available to him in a day than I do. But
you exaggerate a little bit.
No, I actually don't.
Depends on where you're at in your phase.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, like, okay, cool. We're on the same page. I don't have to worry about, I want chicken wings. Well, I can't have chicken wings.
Neither can I.
I know. It's great.
I didn't realize how many freaking calories are in a chicken wing. Holy shit.
Right? It's the awareness piece. Most people don't know.
Yeah. So my Fitness Pal was a big help.
Yep.
I think one thing I'll close with is if you do My Fitness Pal and you enter all of the food that you're going to eat that day, makes your life so much easier because you know exactly where you're going to be at the end of the day. Because there are times when we're like, Shit, I got like 30.
wait, I have to enter all my stuff. I can't eat anymore.
It's like eating egg whites for dinner.
Going to bed. Don't wing it. Don't wing it. No,
I can
no.
have half a cucumber.
Yeah.
Damn it.
All right.
I've had days like that.
So before you go, we do one last thing.
Oh boy.
We do a lightning round of questions, and there are no wrong answers. Well, except maybe one, but there are no wrong answers here. All right. So I have 2 different cards, one for people under 30 and the other one for people over 30, because there's some things that we just don't do and we're whatever. All right. So
when we're older.
Yeah, we're a little bit slightly more seasoned. All right. So first one, name a game show you think you could actually win.
The Newlywed Game.
Ooh, neat. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Burger.
What's the longest you've gone without brushing your teeth?
Maybe 6 hours.
All right.
I'm like anal about brushing my teeth, so.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
I do not do karaoke.
A gun to your head,
I have
you
to
had to do
answer
it.
it?
Yes,
You
gun to your
have
head.
to pick one.
Gun to your head, you have to do it.
9 to 5, Dolly Parton.
Nice.
Or
That's
Elvira.
a great one.
Wow, Elvira.
We'll be fighting if you sing Elvira. We'll be fighting.
All right.
I might win.
Name a dumb song you secretly like.
A dumb song?
Yep. Something you would never play in front of other people. Like you hide the song, but you secretly like it.
God, that's a hard question. Can I pass?
You can pass. Yeah.
He's being nice.
Do you kill bugs or do you yell for help?
You yell for help, definitely. Scream for help.
Do you prefer to sleep in or take a nap?
Ooh, take a nap.
Nice. Would you rather travel into the future or back in time?
Into the future.
And what's your favorite childhood TV show?
We really didn't watch a lot of TV, honestly.
All right.
Probably the Smurfs. How's
The
that?
Smurfs?
I
That
love
was
the
good.
Smurfs.
Yeah.
Not a TV show, but
I was
cartoon.
thinking like Leave It to Beaver or something, but then one guy says, I forget who it was, like the A-Team. I was like, holy crap, yes, the A-Team. Anyway.
My mom was like, get outside and play. We
I
literally
love it.
didn't watch that much TV.
I love
no
it.
joke.
I love it. All right, everybody. So thank you. Thank you for listening. If you got something out of the podcast, please like and subscribe. Share it with everybody. See us on Instagram, the BJJ Foxcast. We also have a Facebook page. And Jenny, thank you again for doing this.
Thank you guys. Awesome.
All right. Take care.